I mean, really, they had all these complex, intricate, interesting, ideas about quantum physics and time and space and temporal mechanics and all that stuff. Daniel Faraday.
Yeah, I just call him Beard Man.
I mean, listen, you shouldn't, because Faraday is the name of a brilliant scientist, okay? As is Hawking, So those are some of the things that I love. I mean, there were great, inside references. I don't know if you guys noticed in the very last episode, as we were watching the finale, the delivery man is pulling the coffin out of the truck, and it's supposedly the remains of Jack's father that they finally found.
Shepherd.
And so he's pulling the remains out of the truck.
Christian Shepherd.
And, Christian Shepherd. Subtle. The guy has a work shirt on, and it says Bachland.
Yep.
Okay, well, some people don't know that I spent the first 25 years of my career as a commercial artist. And so I went to college and everything, private art school and all that kind of stuff. And I happen to know that Bachland is a Swiss painter. And I was pretty sure that the painting that he was most known for was called Isle of the Dead. And so I loved that. I thought that was a real cool little inside thing. It turns out that I was right. He's a Swiss painter. He's best known for Isle of the Dead. Painting, I can't remember when it was
one
done.
of those things they were talking about in
one of those little inside things.
Where, their favorite, writers and all that, where they kind of throw their work into the show.
Right.
They'll have their book, they'll have their artwork.
Right.
Yeah.
They'd have
or the names.
That Naomi Dorrit was one of the characters that was killed. She came over on the helicopter in season 4 or 5, I think, and that was Little Dorrit from Charles Dickens. And so there were lots and lots of inside references to literature that were very cool. It made the show very sort of.
The best references were the Star Wars ones.
By
Thank you, Hugo. Bringing all the dorks and nerds together.
That's right, damn
I love it when he was writing the Star Wars script.
Yeah, that was
so funny. Hurley had the best personality, and he also had some of the best lines.
I wish
in
that they
the
would
entire
continue the show
series.
with him in charge of the island.
I think that I actually think that
because
might have happened.
Yeah,
kind of.
because you remember
not the show, but
but Ben. Hugo was talking to him, and he goes, "You were a good number 2." And he goes, "You were a good number 1."
Right.
And so, all the people got off the island, and them, what was it? Christian, his dad, when he was alive, and they showed that. He goes, "Everyone dies eventually," and so, I think that they get all the memories.
I wanted.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, here's what I wanted. Okay. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's very difficult to encapsulate, but basically, the debate since Lost began 6 years ago has been, did they all die in that crash on the moment that it exploded on the beach, and are they all in hell or purgatory of some sort where they've come to work out all their issues before they can move on? This is a very first season debate, okay?
True.
That's why in the last 10 minutes, when that's where they went, I was like, no! Because to me, I'm watching this whole thing unfold. It was awesome. The finale was great. It was so amazing. It was like...
Now...
And then they get to that ending, and he says, okay, and it's just about moving on and letting go. And I was like...
But it wasn't purgatory.
No, it wasn't. Okay.
In the very beginning, J.J. Abrams made a statement in the very beginning when the Lost series first started, and he pretty much tells you that the series does not take place in purgatory.
Right.
Now, I don't know if he's responsible for the writers later on, but I'm gonna go with J.J. says.
Right, I am too. As I was watching it, I'm convinced that they did not die in the crash. I think that they kept saying over and over throughout the series, what happened, happened. Okay, so I think what happened, happened. I think the whole island life happened. All of them were there. All of those things happened. The Dharma Initiative was there to research the electromagnetic fields there. There are places on the Earth, we know about them, that they exude this tremendous phenomenon of tremendous electromagnetic energy, and we know that does exist. And so the idea that there could be like a supernova of that kind of activity is not that far afield for me.
By a cord.
Right.
An Egyptian cord.
Okay, I thought it was kind of primal, shall we say, you know, to be putting a big old phallic stone into a hole, and that's the way that you fix things, okay?
When in doubt, resort to the most simple, basic thing.
Very basic.
They took a risk just doing it that simple.
Yeah, it was.
A cork in the butt of the earth.
But I you sure that's where it was?
I don't know.
But what I thought was that what they could have done that would have tied it up so much better is, look, they're examining the idea of resolution and of personal acceptance and personal redemption, and that's the overarching theme of the show. And in the finale, each of the characters got some kind of reunion as each of them comes to a moment. It's like, okay, if you haven't seen it, you're probably not watching right now, but anyways, you know, you have Sideways World that starts at the beginning of this season. Sideways World is where the plane never crashed, and so they're examining this whole timeline where everything is better for each of the characters, and then concurrently we're looking at what's going on the island right now. Okay, so everybody's going, okay, with Sideways, what was it? So my theory is that they didn't die on impact. They lived, they did their whole thing on the island, and Sideways World is the holding room. It's the place where he says it. You all constructed this because you were all so important to each other during that time. It was one of the most significant periods of your life. And so you've constructed this to, you know, be able to recognize one another, see one another, remember all of that, and move on. I felt that probably what happened was Jack died on the island just the way that they showed it, okay? Remember that in the very beginning of this series, of the season rather, they showed him looking at a scar on his belly and saying, "Did I have my appendix out?" Okay, yeah. Where did Locke stab him?
Yeah.
Right there. Okay, yeah. So what I was seeing through the whole season was that the timelines were bleeding together. You saw blood on Jack's neck in Sideways World, and it was because he'd been cut on the island. So Ben, he takes another beating, one of the many beatings that he took, and he has the same shiner on the island and the same shiner in Sideways World after Desmond beats the hell out of him. And so,
which he did in both worlds.
Right. And he deserved it in both worlds. Well, no, not
both
Sideways World. He didn't.
Sideways Ben is awesome.
Sideways Ben was awesome, and actually he had one of the most touching scenes I've ever seen on TV. That scene with him and Rousseau and Alex, his daughter, where she says,
yes,
you know,
you're like a father.
You're the closest thing she's ever had to a father. And what tremendous acting on his part. He was amazing. He was so good. And so that was a great thing for me. But anyways, like I said, you know, my take is that this whole thing could have been made so much better if only they had made it clear